So, retail traders turned ultra bearish after Bitcoin dipped below $113,000, marking the most negative sentiment since June 22nd. Historically, this extreme signal a buying opportunity as markets often move opposite to crowd expectations. Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP army. Appreciate you guys as always. Subscribe if you have not done so already. Follow me on X. But let's take a look at what's happening. We're going to piggyback, with this specific thing right here. But let's take a look at, what's happening with the broader markets. Over the last 1 hour, starting to see some coins starting to, shift into the green, but majority of the market is still in red if you're looking at the last 24 hours. Now, XRP right now is down to about 1% on the hourly perspective, and of course on the daily perspective down about 4.2% in USD side of things. But if you're looking at the Bitcoin side of things, we're down about 2.7%, price $2.90, the valuation $172 billion, and a 24-hour trading volume at $6.9 billion. But just a quick disclaimer for everyone, anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So, Bitcoin dips mirror past cycles, says Crypto Quant. Pullback may last 2 to 4 weeks before recovery to new highs. So we're gonna kind of keep this into perspective. And in terms of timing aspect, from a timing standpoint, it all makes sense because it sets us up for the month of September. And as we know, the month of September, I am personally projecting, leading into the FOMC meeting, you're going to start to see the market actually, going up. That's what I'm personally projecting. Obviously, time is going to tell, but due to September, a very bullish month historically, and obviously we're still in a bull market, dominance is still sitting really low. I think we're going to start to creep up, for the overall market. And the day of the FOMC meeting, even if it's a rate cut, I think we're going to see a little bit of a pullback, but we are going to see that being short-lived. So that's how I'm currently looking at it. And I kind of agree with this, article as well. But if you're looking at this, BlackRock currently holds over 87 billion in Bitcoin, accounting for more than 3% of Bitcoin supply. And I know this is an XRP update, but we focus on Bitcoin so much because it's the leading indicator of the market. And if XRP were to get an ETF, guess what? XRP so far, if you kind of look at it from a historic price point, obviously, last cycle, the lawsuit came in the way. It wasn't able to reach an all-time high before that. But this time around, you're seeing the likes of institutional interest coming in for the biggest asset class, which of course is BTC in the crypto category. I think you're going to see projects like XRP that have overall the last 13 years stuck around, with BTC. I think they're really going to thrive this time around because, of course, it has that regulatory clarity for itself now. And with the ETF going, I think it just changes the game. But 3% of Bitcoin's total supply, let that sink in. 3% of Bitcoin's total supply is owned by BlackRock. And these guys are accumulating Bitcoin day by day because they want to have as much control as possible. Because remember, at the end of the day, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And after that, that's it. And that doesn't mean you're going to own 21 million Bitcoin right off the bat. There's so many Bitcoins that have been lost forever. And obviously, we need to take into account the ones that are still being mined. And over time, it just becomes harder and harder to, mine these Bitcoins. And, these things, you don't want to be neglecting. But going back to this, retail tends to be short-minded. And this is why even in my last XRP update, I indicated to you guys, if you're in it for the long haul, so let's say your time horizon is the next 5-10 years plus, then again, obviously focus on, what's happening with XRP, keep up with, the price forecast, but you don't want to panic at that point. If you've done your due diligence, research, and have invested what you can afford to lose, then patience is your best friend. Because I will tell you this 1,000 times, I don't care if I have to repeat this another 1,000 times, market fluctuations are going to happen. But retail, focus on this specific thing. Retail are always short-minded. They want instant gratification, instant gain. They don't want to be, holding long term. And most of the time we get that hindsight feeling, right? as you know, the hindsight 2020, we kind of go backtrack. You know what, it was better just to hold our coins till now. Only if I held our coins till now, it would have been worth this and that. So that's a learning thing. Learn from the smart money. Smart money is accumulating Bitcoin, and even kind of take a look at it from the previous cycles, when you did start to see some small institutions that were starting to pay attention to Bitcoin, or even sophisticated investors, retail investors, that were accumulating, and that just had patience. Now it has paid off. So patience is your best friend. Retail, again, 90% of retail, in my honest opinion, just won't make it. Again, this is my own personal opinion, but I just think 90% won't make it because people have, our brains can get the best of us. The way our brain, gets greedy during times of extreme, euphoria for crypto space. And of course, if you look at other coins that are in green, again, I'm talking from my own personal experience as well. And I know a lot of people can relate to this. So only some people will win, and we need to understand. I know some people might come out and say, Crypto ZX, why are you saying, we're all not going to make it? Unfortunately, that's the reality. That's the truth, guys. The reason why I say that is because there always needs to be, some people that will be obviously taking the loss, which of course I don't want anyone from the Crypto ZX army or anyone in general. Of course, I don't hope that for anyone, but again, that's the reality. Not everyone wins. So for us, if you ask yourself, again, I know I'm going on a major rant, but it's very, very critical to note. Ask yourself this question: what's my horizon? Like, where do I see? Am I in it for the next 5 years? Am I in it for the next 10 years? Long term? Am I in it for the short term? If it's short term, guess what? Have an exit strategy and stick with it and lock those profits in. If you don't, someone else will, and then it is what it is, right? But enough with the rant. Let's continue with our update. So Nate says, comments today from the Fed Governor Bauman on banks, regulators, and crypto. Change is coming. It is essential that banks and regulators are open to engaging in new technologies and departing from an overly cautious mindset. Read this. Shift towards crypto is happening fast, and it is happening fast. In the last 8 months, what we have seen happen to the crypto space is something we used to dream of back in the day. And what I mean about back in the day is just over the last decade. I've been in the space, like I said, next 2026 marks 10 years, since I've been in this crypto space, and we have seen so much, change happening within this industry, and it's just fascinating. And what if I said in just the last 8 months we had a huge chunk of that really occurring? Yes, ETFs came before that, but that is where that regulatory clarity and laws being implemented, that is what you want to see happening. And again, we are in the right direction. So take a look at this. Attention XRP holders, Gemini just dropped a cryptic teaser, the next era of rewards with XRP hidden. You can see, they said the next era of rewards is preparing to launch. So you can see they said X as in caps, are for rewards, caps, and preparing. So which of course aligns as XRP. And they've done something in the past like this, with RLUSD. So what does this pretty much mean? This pretty much means that they might be introducing some rewards in terms of staking rewards. Of course, XRP is not a proof of stake consensus, but exchanges can implement. You can kind of earn yield by letting individuals borrow your XRP, but again, there's risks associated to it. So do your research. If this were to be launched, there's so much resources there. You need to really dig deep in before you go ahead and start earning this, because of course there always is a risk associated with this as well. But again, big thing, of course, for a lot of XRP holders. I'm sure some people are eager about this. But again, let me know in the comments what your personal thoughts are regarding this. But take a look at this. Ripple reply to this bullish tweet. So it says, congrats to Bullish on a successful IPO. A portion of IPO proceeds were settled in RLUSD minted on the XRP ledger. This is the first public listing to bring the settlement process on chain and sets a precedent for how stablecoins can shape future of listing. Let that sink in, guys. Let that sink in. We saw a portion of the IPO proceeds settled in none other than RLUSD, the stablecoin. Are we getting this? This is telling you how far RLUSD is going in such a short span of time, and I am personally projecting RLUSD will take a huge market share of the stablecoin industry, as regulatory clarity is so important, and the non-compliant stablecoins are going to have to get delisted. Moving forward, shout out to Smoke, confirmed XRP and HBAR will directly benefit from Swift's live digital asset trials, plus ongoing transitions to the ISO 20022. And on top of that, Nate also suggests that you can see Garcia made this bold claim just days after the SEC postpones its decision on several spot XRP ETFs. Despite this, he says that floodgates for spot XRP ETFs appear likely within the next 2 months. This indicates that Garcia expects the SEC to approve multiple XRP ETFs between now and October. And of course, we know the October deadline. You can see this for yourself. Notably, the SEC must decide whether to approve or disapprove Grayscale's request to convert its XRP trust to spot ETF by October 18th. It's also final deadline on October 19th to decide 21 shares XRP. So we still have a lot of time, but in terms of a timeline aspect, I agree with what Nate's saying, and I think that would put us in terms of timing would be perfect. But taking a look at the dominance, we did revisit the 60%. We broke out of that range, got rejected at that, so that's nice to see. Pulled back down, amazing to see. But as far as Bitcoin is concerned, even though we have seen this uptick right now, I don't want you guys to be getting overly excited just yet because of the fact that we are still not above the 115K range, most importantly the 117, which pretty much still opens the door for us to see a double bottom, potentially even drop in below that. XRP on the other hand, unfortunately, it's still sitting below the $3 price point. It is what it is. Of course, we need to understand what's happening with the broader market. These price targets that we're seeing right now is something we've discussed in the previous update. Obviously, we do have some support around the 290. If this does not hold, as I stated to you guys before in my last update, we should be prepared for potentially a double bottom to occur. But again, we're going to take it one step at a time. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.